How's it going, everybody? I have a tutorial for you today. Last week in my video, top 8 flies, I mentioned this Reese's Fusion Nymph and I said that it was a killer and you should have it in your box, and I still stand with that. So to get started, you'll need a 3.2mm bead or anywhere around that size, but that's what I'm using. It's a Fulling Mills bead and the color is a metallic brown. I specifically like this bead color, but the nice part about this is you can experiment with all kinds of colors, different kinds of ostrich herl, wire, tail, really whatever you can think of, so be creative. But then I'm putting that on a size 14 jig hook, and then I'm going to start my thread body. I'm going to start by securing that bead on the top of the hook, just so it's not moving around while I'm trying to tie. And then as I keep that taper in mind, you want the front of your fly near the bead to be a little bit heavier on the thread side than the end of your fly, just so it looks proportional when it comes to actual bugs. As I move down, I'm going to stop the thread about where the hook starts to bend, and then I'll tie in my tail material. For this one, I'm going to use pheasant tail, and I'm going to use about 3 strands. And now I'm going to tie in the wire, and I'm always going to tie the wire before the ostrich herl because the herl tends to be pretty delicate, so if that snaps off, then you don't have to redo your whole fly or, go backwards. But once I have that wire tied in, then I'm going to choose my ostrich herl. For this specific pattern, I have an olive color, and I got the ostrich herl from TCO Fly Shops. You can go there in person if you're in Pennsylvania, or you can order off their website. Now I'm just going to take even wraps with that ostrich herl up the hook shank, and I'm just going to make sure that the wraps are touching. You don't need to overlap or space them out, just make sure they're touching, and it should look kind of like this. Once I get up to that thorax section, I'm going to tie off that herl and then snip it off. And when you're done tying that off, you're going to take counter wraps with your wire. I forgot to mention I chose brown for this wire color. Like I said, you can use anything. You could have used copper, golden, it really doesn't matter, but I love this brown color. And as you're wrapping this up, the spacing doesn't need to be perfect. I think Reece, who was the guy who made this pattern, kind of wraps his wire a little bit tighter. Mine's a little bit loose. I kind of like having that herl out there getting buggy and whatnot, but you can do this any way that looks good to you. And once I have that wire to about where the ostrich herl is, I'm going to tie that and snip it free. And then for the thorax of the fly, instead of dubbing, I really just have a squirrel tail, and I've been taking strands off of that. And I'll just kind of get a fingerful and then put it on as dubbing. If it has trouble, use wax, or I like to lick my fingers. That tends to work pretty well. Then once I get a thin noodle of that squirrel tail on my thread, I'll take wraps, and as I'm wrapping it around that hook shank, I'm going to kind of brush it back just to form the fly a little bit, kind of give it that look that I want. Just so it's not too ugly looking, kind of like it did at first, but once I start stroking that back and, securing it, it'll look a little better. And I love this squirrel tail. I think it makes it look pretty realistic. It gives it more action. It's buggy. I love it. So once you're done with that, you're going to take your whip finish tool. I did about 2 to 3 turns. And then you can choose whatever head cement. You can use clear nail polish. It really doesn't matter, just as long as that thing doesn't fall apart, and smack her on there. I'll fish these flies in anywhere from a size 12 to 16. You could even do 18 and smaller if you wanted to, but this is just what I carry in my box. And like I said, the awesome part is you can come up with different variations and whatnot, different colors. I've seen pink, I've seen olive, I've seen pretty much everything. But I think this replicates mayfly nymphs pretty well, maybe some stages of caddis. Who really knows, honestly, but I just know that it works. It gets those flies down. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, I just got some new camera gear. As you know, first day of trout is coming up this Saturday in Pennsylvania, so I'm excited to get some footage and get this ball rolling. So thanks, take it easy.